Okay, I'm Baron Stockhill. I'm a commercial farmer in North Marondera, and we've been trying for like 5 years to get a program up and running to turn small scale agriculture into small scale commercial agriculture. And we first did the Ntwasa from Fudza packs, and now we've got the pivot, which is the plots behind us. So we started 2 months ago. We've planted 2 plots of potatoes. We've done 2 wheat circles and 1 watermelon circle. Each circle represents 1/10 of a hectare, and we're working out the costings, what we can actually get per circle. So the circles behind me are potatoes. It's a new variety of potato. We could get a possibility between 12 tons to 6 tons a circle, which makes this now very viable depending on the market prices. Then in front of us we've got some wheat, which there's 2 circles of wheat. We could most probably maybe get a ton off of that, of wheat off the 2 circles. And then the watermelons, we're looking at getting maybe 4,000 watermelons at 2 kgs or 3 kgs a melon. I'm not sure, we haven't weighed them yet, done a season with them. And we will be putting in other crops from now on. We'll be putting in some maize, we'll be putting in some tobacco to show farmers that this little pivot that we've got, this mini pivot, is for the people and the small scale farmers that are serious and have got some water and want to do some irrigation, that is viable and it can change their lives in Zimbabwe and maybe through Africa.
My name is Regis Chiwaya. I'm coming from the program called Smallholder Irrigation Revitalization Program, which is a program funded by the government of Zimbabwe and IFAD, which is the International Fund for Agricultural Development. We are working with the smallholders in Zimbabwe in order to improve their productivity in agriculture, specifically in revitalization of the smallholder irrigation schemes in the various parts of Zimbabwe. We have been invited at this farm, which is Kent Farm, Stockhill Farm, to observe an innovation on a center pivot, which is suitable for smallholder irrigation schemes. As people might generally appreciate, most center pivots have been designed with large commercial farmers in mind. But the pivot which we are seeing here has been designed specifically for the smallholder, in that it is cutting down on the cost of development per hectare, and it is actually cutting down on the various materials which are used to make up a center pivot, so that the final product is quite friendly for the smallholder irrigation scheme. What we have observed here is that we have a very good innovation, an innovation which can actually be used by the smallholder farmers in the various parts of Zimbabwe, an innovation which really improves water application at the farm, an innovation which can be coupled with solar irrigation systems, so that we make our agriculture more climate friendly, more greener. And as you can observe, the pivot here which we have behind me is one which can cover about 1/10 of a hectare, which is about 1,000 square meters. And as people may appreciate, generally the land holding for smallholder farmers is also small. So if you can get something which can cover that small area, like for example the 1,000 square meters which we are talking about, then this will improve really on the practices on the farm. First of all, the pivot is running on its own. It doesn't need a lot of minute by minute management by the farmer. So it means the farmer is now cutting down on labor. The fact that it is actually using sprinklers to apply water means the farmer is actually cutting down on the amount of water which he is using. The fact that it is using solar power, it means the farmer is no longer dependent on electricity to irrigate. So with this typical innovation, most of the challenges which the smallholder farmers are facing would have been solved. In Zimbabwe, in the 80s, it was actually the smallholder farmers who were actually producing for GMB. It was they were the ones who actually produced much of the maize in Zimbabwe, which used to feed the nation. So, considering this, if we were to empower the current communal and smallholder farmers with appropriate technologies and appropriate support, this would lead to a transformation in our production processes, which will ultimately lead in an increase in production, and that increase in production will actually result in us offsetting much of the cost which we are incurring when we are importing some of the food grains which we need.
Pandaka pivot iyi pandakapiwa na Beret, inini wacho pachezvangu akanditi seko yeyo unogona kuwa 1 ton nechibage. Ndakamuitisa naro zvichokwadi ndikati Beret unonyepa kaseko kadikidiki kakati ngakowe tani zvikanzi yeyo unokuwa tani nechibage. Vakauya zvishowa vakandidzidzisa ndikazviteedzera, ndikasara ndikazviteedzera nemazvo zvawakanga wanditaura zvacho. Hapana kutsautsira kwandakaita, ndakaita saizvozvo wakandifundisa zvishuwa. Ndakakohwa tani yechibage, ndopandakatanga kugutsika ndikati shuwa panobuda tani mufundi. Kubva ipapo seko yangu ndiri kukohwa tani yechibage, ende ndinozvitenda kuti tani yechibage inotokwana paseko. Asi mukaionawo seko kuna vanenge vachida kuiona, ndikautaura kuti tani inobuda panoramba unoti unopenga here pangabude tani ipapa, sezvandakaenda ndichitiwo pandakaipiwa naBeret. Ndakatombomirisa naro zvechokwadi, but zveshuwa seko yeyo akandipa tani according nemadyariro acho akandidzidzisa, ndozvandakateedzera kuti tani ikwane. Zvodai ndakatsautsira shuwa tani yaisambokwana.
So just the 3 million thereabouts of the smallholder farmers, communal farmers we have in Zimbabwe, just empowering them with the right kind of technology and the right kind of support will probably eliminate all the food challenges which we are having in Zimbabwe. So it is really critical. And remember, in a typical communal farmer, it is not only the mother and father who are the farmers, but a typical household is probably having 3 or 5 people. So just empowering the household, you would have empowered almost like 4, 5, 7 people, which will snowball into the rest of Zimbabwe becoming more productive, and in the end it will really reduce this rural to urban flow which we are having, and our income tax base will actually widen and will be on target to reach the 2030 vision, which is being propagated by the government of Zimbabwe. And I believe it is an innovation which the government and the farmers, especially the smallholder farmers, should look at tapping into, so that they can mechanize and bring about that transformation which is required in agriculture.
My name is George Seremwe. I'm from Tobacco Association of Zimbabwe. I've come to see the mini center pivot, which is of interest for our smallholder farmer. Yeah, from what I've observed, it's a good center pivot which could work very well for our smallholder farmer, because it works on the water efficiency, and at the same time it reduces labor, and it's easy maintenance, and it also can work on solar pump, and it doesn't need much horsepower to be driven, which makes it affordable to our smallholder farmers. From what we have seen and the experience on the ground on the possibilities with the mini center pivot, it's very, very interesting, whereby we have what a crop of, that is potatoes. At the same time also we have a crop of watermelon. On the side we have also a crop that is wheat, meaning that it's a multi-task center pivot. It's towable and is movable to where the farmer needs it. He doesn't need a tractor, he just can use it. with manual labor and the minimum horsepower needed to irrigate.
The other innovation which we have appreciated here on this demonstration plot is that this center pivot can actually be coupled to other secondary innovations. You can couple fish tanks to the innovation so that part of the water which is not being used in the pivot will actually be flowing into a separate tank where you can actually keep fish, or you can even do some citrus with the overflow from the center pivot. So this brings into aspect a holistic approach in the production system. You are not only looking at the crop, but you are also looking at other avenues like fish, apiculture, and you can also look at citrus, which is very good.
In 5 days you can do a hectare of land, and so you can move your pivot from hectare to hectare. You can move it from circle to circle. You can take a circle, cut it into quarters, and do 4 different crops within a circle. So at the end of the day, it's extremely versatile for the farmer, for whatever he wants to do and however he wants to plant his crop. And it can be put into small corners of the lands where the lands are not big lands. You can do small circles and pull them along and fit it into a smaller area and do a good agricultural product. Yeah, so in this is half a hectare that we've got under the irrigation at the moment. So we've got 2 plots of potatoes. So that's 120 days from when we've planted. A month later we've planted watermelons and we've planted wheat. So we've got 3 different incomes now off of half a hectare. So we're not relying on just one cropping season where we're just doing tomatoes or just potatoes. We've got a variation of crops. We're going to put a fish tank in here where we can take off 5,000 fish every 8 months because we're in a cold area, and we can have income all through the year depending on what type of crops we're going to plant and how we want to manage it.
I'm Olga with the Women in Agriculture Union. Today we are at Marondera. We are looking at the center pivot, which I like to term the gender sensitive center pivot. This is a very good development and something that as women farmers, this we appreciate. It goes a long way in assisting us as small scale farmers. We are encouraging farmers that it is time we produce not just to feed our families. Let's produce for the community, let's produce for the nation, let's produce for export. And this is an important part of that production process.
So we've had a lot of talking about different irrigation systems, and we looked at drip irrigation. You have to take it up after every crop and either store it where it will get eaten with rats, or you have to put it into the land, which can get chopped with buzzers. So there are downfalls to that side of it, and the cost for the big pivot is out of reach for small scale farmers. And then the end gun, a lot of people have said, oh well, you just can put an end gun on a stand and irrigate a bit of land. But all of the stuff that you do takes more horsepower in motor pressure size, and then the gun doesn't do an even watering in the circle. Otherwise I think there would be end guns all on commercial farms, and that's why they've got it on a pivot with small nozzles applying small amounts of water in a rotation so that you can get as even irrigation as you possibly can. And that's what we've been able to achieve with the mini pivot, in that it runs on solar panels, 8 solar panels, a 2 horsepower motor. We need 13,500 litres over 3 hours per circle, and you can increase it if you want or decrease it, just depending on what you want to do. You can also put your fertilizer in on a fertigator. You can put fish tanks in. There's a lot of scope for diversity with the water availability and the type of agriculture you can get off of the small scale pivot.